General Secretary Noncedo Madubedube says that the department and UMALUSI owe parents, learners and teachers an explanation. Hopolang Selebalo is the co-head of research at Equal Education, and she joins us now via Zoom. A very good afternoon to you, ma'am. Thank you so very much for being with us here on SABC News.
Thank you so much, Flo. I'm glad to be here.
Just as a start, what answers are you looking for? You say that, the department and UMALUSI owe parents, learners and teachers an explanation. There was that joint media briefing, and I'm sure you watched it quite closely last week, where the minister and DBE and UMALUSI did, of course, give a press briefing as to what might have happened and the fact that there will be investigations and so forth. What are you not satisfied with? What do you want? What further do you want from the department and UMALUSI?
Sure. I hear you. So yes, we did assess what the minister and the DG and members of or officials from the Department of Basic Education said around the matric paper leaks. In terms of additional information that would justify the rewrite for learners, we felt that we got quite not very detailed information. So school community, civil society, the general public didn't get very detailed information in terms of what exactly had happened. So the questions that we're asking is the extensiveness of the leak. A number was cited in terms of learners who had access, but we understand that that was still from a preliminary report, and the department has admitted that they don't know the breadth of reach. We want to know when the paper was circulated. There have been we've had input from learners and different stakeholders saying that one of the papers was circulated about 2 hours before the exam. In some instances, we heard that parts of a paper were shared via WhatsApp, and that it wasn't the full paper. And we do question whether or not, if it wasn't the full paper, is this justified? But in fact, were both full papers circulated, and through what mediums? So we don't believe that these questions were answered adequately in the briefing, nor that these questions were shared adequately with school communities. So that, particularly as you pointed out, in light of the incredibly difficult year that learners and teachers have had, the justification, the explanation for the need for the rewrite needed to be further cemented. And we understand fully when the minister speaks about the integrity of the exams, and UMALUSI speak about the integrity of the exams, but learners' mental well-being, mental health is also critical to consider. But yes, let me stop there.
I think just carrying on what we're discussing then, I do understand what you're saying, and I certainly, I know a few matriculants myself that, have had to struggle through the anxiety and stress of this year, along with COVID-19, not fully being in class, all of that. But what's the alternative then, and maybe then I'm throwing the ball back in your court then as Equal Education to say to you, what then, Hopolang, are the proposals, given the chance, would you then give the department and UMALUSI? I mean, as you say, it seems as though sections of the papers were leaked, but it's still a compromise. The paper's still compromised, at the end of the day. So what are the proposals you would then, put to the table for the Department of Basic Education, apart from then having the matriculants sit and write again?
I mean, it's a difficult question, and I think one that we've also pondered deeply. We were actually speaking with equalizers, who are EEs, high school going youth, and we'd asked them the question, what alternative, firstly, are you ready to rewrite?
Yeah.
Do you feel mentally prepared? Do you think you can do this all over again? And the responses predominantly were in the negative. Yes, they would write, but they didn't feel that their heads were still in the game. But for their future, they would do it. And one of the other questions was, what alternatives do you think exist? I think that one of the possible alternatives is lobbying UMALUSI in particular to recognize this certificate. And also for, for compassion and empathy, particularly when you recognize the difficulties of this year, as you correctly pointed out, is that UMALUSI recognizes the credibility of these particular exams. And this is not the first time that leaks have happened.
Yeah.
This is obviously like probably a more extensive leak. I believe there was one in 2016, but it was quite isolated. We knew that there were 100 learners in a particular province, and in fact, it's often a recurring theme in our matric. In our exams, unfortunately. And in those instances, there weren't any rewrites. And I think personally, for me, it's also like taking the particular year that we've had and UMALUSI kind of weighing that up against this decision that they've made. There was something else that I wanted to, but yes, okay, let me pause there.
Okay. It's very interesting you talk about the reoccurring theme, and this certainly was a question I also posed to the department. We can't continually have the situation where, we have paper leaks and so forth. Where do you think, and I'm not sure if I actually got the right answer myself, but where do you think the root of the issue is when it comes to the leaking of papers? I mean, it's easy for all of us to kind of blame the Department of Basic Education when there might be certain individuals, and we don't know whether it's at UMALUSI, we don't know, the Department of Basic Education really actually don't know how many hands these papers go through at the end of the day. So another, I suppose, unfair question to you, but let's just see if you can find a way to answer it. I mean, what do we do? I don't know if it's even the last time we're going to hear about matric papers being leaked. So how do we get to the bottom of this root, the root of this problem, so that we don't have this again?
It is a difficult question to answer. It is a difficult question to answer, but it is one that we've considered as well. So we also compare, you mentioned the paper leaks, and that's also another significant difference this year, right? Is that it's gone into the virtual zone now, the digital space, as opposed to paper. And I think that's why it was easier actually to track the paper leaks in previous years. I can't say for certain where the leaks begin, but I do believe that it's imperative for the DBE, UMALUSI, to bolster their security systems, because the concern that you have is one that we also have, is that because there are shortcomings in the system, because there are fault lines within the system, learners now have to bear the brunt of those errors, of those broken parts of the system. And it's very discouraging if learners believe that they have to go through this again and again and again every single year because of unsecure systems or like security weaknesses within the DBE and UMALUSI. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that stands out for me is you can't punish learners for mistakes, for errors that they're not responsible for.
Yeah, correct indeed. All right, we'll certainly be catching up with you at a later stage, and perhaps after the matric results have come up, I'm sure you'll have something to say at that point as well. So thank you very much for speaking with us. We appreciate it. That's Equal Education's co-head of research, Hopolang Selebalo, speaking to us there about the matric papers that were leaked. I believe it was mathematics and science paper 2, and of course